Good morning to all. India is a very rightest historical background land of the world because the Indian subcontinent play a vital role to change the tremendous historical actions and expeditions, conquests, and the mixture of the culture. It is telling India is the one of the historical land to place for visitor and conqueror the various kinds or race of peoples to enter in India to engage and mingle with the Indian subcontinent, particularly in India. So the classical India is now we are going to that classical India to start from the latter Vedic age into the Gupta periods. One thing that Vedic age actually the theory of the Aryan migration. It is one of the play a vital role in the historical sense. Who is Aryans? Aryans, they are from the Central Asia. They are migrating from that place into the entered in India the Hyperborean passes. He across the Indus River basin in first stage, and he is now we have discussing thoroughly study the history of India. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the distracted by the Aryan invasion. It is one of the causes of the still the historians to expressing the how the Indus Valley civilization was in. Okay, so that is the primary role, and Aryan expedition is one of the primary causes. So at that time, that people to settled in the Indus River bank, and after gradually they are migrating to the Gangetic basin. So they settled the Gangetic basins. That is the time of the latter Vedic age. Okay, first now we are going to see the Vedic age. 1500 years ago to 500 BCE. The name of the Vedas, which recorded the history, begin with the Aryans' migration to India. The Aryans pushed the Ganges up to the Deccan. Eventually, the nomadic Aryans settled down. They ruled local inhabitants, Dasas, and Dravidians. Still the dasas and the Dravidians, that concept still now is one of the critical criticizing concept of ideas among the historians. Dasas and das use, that means low class peoples, that peoples feel like that is superior. Okay, yeah, who is the Aryans? That another the native peoples they consider like the feel that the Dasas the low class peoples, the untouchable peoples. Thus is the Tradians also they are unlike untouchable peoples. So that like feel that. And the second stage of the Ganges republics, that Mahajanapadas, gradually they are developing their expedition of capturing that regions, and they are settled here the Mahajanapadas. That means Mahajanapadas means the 16 large state dominated Indus Ganges region by the Aryans. So this is a republic dominations by the Kshatriyas and warriors classes. So the states to Vedic for that culturally that changes in time into time. They are established their power of Aryas with the Satriyas. divide the power of that region. The rulers performed the socio religious rituals, and Magadha was one of the most dominated zone of that region. The religious society dominated by the Brahmins. The Brahmins means nothing but the Aryans. They controlled the ritual rites, religious duties, and religious often called the Brahminism. You know one thing, the Varnasra Dharma. It is one of the historical concept of Indian history. You know one thing that four Varnas to followed by that time. One is the Brahmanas, second one is Satriyas, third Vaishyas, and fourth one Sudras. They were born from the Brahmas forehead, the one and the tie, and just born by the Satriyas, and tie born by the Vaishyas, and food born by the Sudras. So that is kind of theory to define it during that time. Still, some historians to focusing that concept. So that during that time, the Brahminical domination in the society at the time, the Brahmins are very aloofness to maintain the local peoples. They are very religiously, very rituals, and they conducted the different uh, crucial practices to against that local peoples. So that local peoples to emerged to want to change the religious freedom and the religious emotionally to worship like that. So at the time that Jainism to emerge in this time, the Vartamana Mahavira was born in the North India 540 BCE. He left family sacrifice for the salvation from the cycle of incarnation. The gain at the Enlightenment, the art at ascetic doctrines. His discipline began to lead to the monastic life. The Mahavir became the Jain, the conqueror. Jain means conqueror. It is a very, very important point. Jain means conqueror. It is in one word point of view. Jains means given some four options. Jain means conqueror. Okay, right now, and he is also a Satriya clients. According to the Varnasra Dharma, he was a Satriya clients. Okay, right? And they followed the Jains doctrine and ethics. You know, every religious practices has some doctrines, principles to follow that. So, in this connection, Jainism also follows that ethics that inspired by the Upanishads. Everything in this was proposed possessed by the soul. The stringing the purity one's selfish behavior to attain the state of bliss. The principles of ahimsa, the non-violence towards all living things. They believed that almost of occupations and tied to the violations of some ideas and peoples. The two demanding non-practice attractive to that cult of Brahmins. So the art of early stage of Jainism to rise for against to the Brahmanism. That is the primary fact of that. So in this connection, the Brahmanism to against the local people, so automatically that non-violence highlighted by the Jainism to emphasize that people to followed it because of during the time of the latter Vedic age, many more sacrifices, yagas, yajnas, and different kind of pujas performing by the Aryans on their rituals, so that common peoples lost of their property, wealth, and everything. So they want to peace of religious worship. So that time Jainism was formed. So in this connection, the Jainism also, yeah, important one that time. Next one we have to see that Buddhism. Early Buddhism, the Siddhartha Gautama. You know one thing, the Gautama Buddha, he was born 563 to 483 BCE. Born, he was a Satriya caste, witnessed to the miseries of the human conditions. Give up that the conformable life begin to the sacrificing for enlightenment. The intense the meditation and extreme ascetics. The receives that enlightenment under the poetry. You know one thing, Buddha's life is at early stage very luxurious, and he was one of the princes of that region. So he was want to change, to search, seeing that um, fact. And when he was exiled from their palace to search that seeks of that fact. So Buddha is the followers, the turning of the wheels of the laws introduced during the time of 528 BCE. Are Christ the followed into the community, and monks traveled to the preach throughout the North India. Buddha's doctrine, Dharma, the Four Noble Truth, all life involved the suffering, one, two, the desire that causes for the suffering, elimination of desires brings an end to the sufferings. The noble eightfold path brings to the enlightenment, eliminate to the desire. So that kind of that Buddhism's noble truths to establish by Buddha, and to preach over the North India, and to follow by that people. Appeal to the Buddhism. The Buddhism to automatically is in fact is unavoidable during that society. So many more rulers also to embrace the Buddhism. Even Asoka, he was one of the eminent ruler of that time. He also embraced the Buddhism. So that Buddhism is gradually to develop the top position. Once that cruise, so particular zone of that place to establish that region, but later that it's in fact it's necessary to bring about, by the rulers to develop it through the nation, or particularly North India, and it spread over the South India, and now it is worldwide spread the Buddhism. It's in fact of the during the representation or embraced by the rulers. So this is Asoka's, that Asoka support the emperor Asoka become the devote of Buddhist during the time of, you know one thing, what circumstances to lead to Asoka embrace the Buddhism, you know thing, during the time of the battle of uh, Asoka in the place of at present Orissa. Okay, said that applies to facing Kahavarman. He was one of the opposite person that ruled over the Kalinga. Its name, old name is Kalinga, and present name is Orissa. So that fight between Kahavarma and Asoka. Finally, the Gahavarma was failed and defeated. Asoka was won. When he see and around the battlefield, the many more people to die and wounded, and unfortunately to can't be able to see in the surround regions. When he was realized that why we have lost of things is that human beings for that land. So he was totally to feel realized their uh, conversion, the thought of Buddhism. So he embraced the Buddha, and the spirit the Buddhism to the worldwide. And the rise of Mauryas, the Western intuitions, the instructions, the Persians, the Greek intruders that Chandragupta Maurya. And after the Chandragupta Maurya, Maurya is one of the eminent ruler of that period. He was emprising to the, in between that the time of Alexander invasion is one of the landmark in the history of India. It is root for establishing the Indian power of the spiritual knowledge to spread over the world by the Asoka expedition. So automatically Ashoka's more concentrate to capture in India. Finally, and they once they want to after to settled to return back from India. So that time their commander was appointed here, and he returned back from the India. So they are a fusion with the Chandragupta Maurya and the Greek um, peoples to mingle with their cultural exchange of that time. So it's in fact to one of the art to develop the Gandhara art. Gandhara art means nothing but Greek and Indian art confused in the fusion that is called as a Gandhara art. Even we have to see Buddha and anyone luminaries of their behinds of their head. They are lightnings to settings that uh, system, and they are dressing the idols to dressing in their various layers and folds and designs and flooring like that. So that is a sculptural phenomena to expose the Greek style of architecture. So it is called as the Indo-Greek architecture, that is called as Kandara architecture. One thing, it is one of the important of Asoka's reigns. The Saranath tomb builder is one of the landmark of their style of carving of the architecture formation and nomadic indulers. The nomadics of that northwestern kingdoms, the 200 BCE to 300 BCE. The Indo-Europeans nomads through the center of that Asia, the gradually to Kushans and the Gupta dynasty. The Gupta dynasty is a very very important one because that Gupta period 322 CE to the 550 CE is a very landmark of the Indian history. Without the Gupta Empire, we can't to say the Indian history because Gupta more contribute to the Indian history. So it is built, they called us a golden age of Indian history. Why the golden age of Indian history means, now we are going to see now the Gupta dynasty. Gupta was controlled by the regional kingdoms. The Gupta state arose the power of Magadha. Magadha is nothing but at present Bengal is in around zone is called as Magadha. Okay, the Gupta government dynasty was really the decentralized. The local rulers had great powers. At present stage of the local self-government system has already existed during that time. And there are the states ruled who had the ceremonial functions, and that several the Raja gets the rules over the incarnation of the god. So that is Indian golden age. Even the Hinduism revival actually, and before we have seen the latter Vedic age, the Brahminism domination of the society, so that Hinduism was gradually lost lose its among the rulers because the Jainism and Buddhism were embraced by the support by the rulers, and after the Gupta came to power, gradually the Hinduism to highlighted in the society. The many more the Hindu rituals and celebrated and conducting many more yagas and yajnas by the Brahmins, and even Ramayana, Mahabharata, and some epics, Sangalam. So these were the greatest literary works to done during the Gupta period. So, and economically also the well developed that conditions, and politically they very strong to decentralization of powers to in the under a one panel of Gupta dynasty. So this is called as the golden age. So the economical condition is very the downs of manufacturing goods and commodities to decentralized sales throughout the luxurious goods manufactured down provide the marketing systems also there. The long distance trade to invasion to the Persians helps to the building trade new network trade and China and Africa, Ocean, the Southeast Asia, spread with along with the spread of Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism to the Central and Southeast Asia, so that the social gender relations, the strong patriarchal families subordinates to the women and to men. The child marriage placed the women under the control of the old men. The development of caste system, the social group of the artists, craftsmen, and merchants appeared. You know one thing, we gradually to approach that the Varnasra Dharma is emphasize that the four Varnas that is highlighted in this present scenario of the historical studies. But at the time, that the caste system is based on their professional concept alone, but they are not born for that racial and caste system. Caste system highlight only what they are doing their occupation, what they are doing their profession, what they are doing their work. So that concept to define the caste. So that was that time of induction during the Gupta period. So this like we have wealth of the social adders, trade and industry brought to the prosperity to many Vaishyas and Sutras, all the beliefs and the values of the early Aryan society. They become the increasingly the relevant to the development of the classical age of India. Thank you once again.